Hello, I'm Beck. Welcome to my channel. Today I'll be drawing a D&D character based on the roll of the dice.
Let's bring out the Tower of Destiny!
So we have an Aasimar Ranger, and as you can see from the collection of inspiration pics I got here, I was focusing quite heavily on the archer kind of ranger, and looking at what an Aasimar is, they come from celestial beings, but they're not celestial beings. So a lot of the pictures I found had wings, but when I looked into it, they're not supposed to have wings, or there is a thing they can do, which I'll tell you about later, that creates the illusion of wings, but they're non-functional. So I just gave myself a little note not to include wings, because whenever I think of an Aasimar, I imagine them with wings like an angel, but that is not accurate. Anyway, there is a table that you can have Aasimar celestial features, and I didn't bother rolling a dice. I just decided to do starkly colored hair because that one's a very visual one that's quite easy to do. So I gave her brightly colored hair, which is starkly colored hair, and let's get started. Now the official way to pronounce Aasimar is, wait for it,
Aasimar.
Aasimar. But I feel like an idiot saying it like that, so I'm just going to say Aasimar. And they are descended from a celestial being or infused with heavenly power. So Aasimar are mortals who carry a spark of the upper planes within their souls. They can fan that spark to a bright light, ease wounds, and unleash the fury of the heavens. Blah-de-blah-blah. As far as physical description, it really just says that they resemble their parents. So whatever race the mortal parents are is what your Aasimar will look like. But they have features that hint to their celestial heritage, which is kind of, you can make up your own, but they also have that table that was in my inspiration pic. And so I chose starkly colored hair. Some of the others include like rainbows gleaming on your skin, which I did try to also add later in the video and it looked bad, so I took it away. You can have an unusual hue tinting your shadow. You could have a ghostly halo crowning your head. Things like that. Things that are like, you look generally normal, but there's just a little bit of something that makes you look different. So I decided that this character, whose name will be Lemon, comes from a line of wood elves, because it makes sense that a ranger would probably grow up in a forest, and wood elves generally live in the forest. So, yes, as an Aasimar, you have something called celestial resistance, which means you have resistance to necrotic damage and radiant damage. You have healing hands, something called Light Bearer, which means you know the light cantrip, and charisma is your spellcasting ability for that. Celestial Relevation. Yep, I pronounced that correctly. And under Celestial Relevation, you have three things: Necrotic Shroud, Radiant Consumption, and Radiant Soul. So a whole bunch of cool stuff comes with being an Aasimar. Now, where I was talking about the whole wings thing, I had only seen the first part on, so under Celestial Relevation, under Necrotic Shroud, it says, your eyes briefly become pools of darkness and ghostly, flightless wings sprout from your back temporarily. And that seems to be what is in the image accompanying Aasimar on the official page for it. But right at the bottom, there is another thing called Radiant Soul, where it says 2 luminous spectral wings sprout from your back temporarily. Until the transformation ends, you have a flying speed equal to your walking speed. And once on each of your turns, you can deal an extra radiant damage to one target, blah, 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 blah. So you can technically get wings to fly with, but they're temporary, and you don't just have them all the time. So again, it's sort of like, I'm wondering if in the new player handbook they will just have Aasimar have wings, because I don't think there's any race right now where you can have wings but not be a bird person. I think all of the flying types are part bird, which I wouldn't necessarily want to be. Like, you might want to be a character who just has wings. Like, I know at a certain point, actually I don't know, I think at a certain point Tiefling or maybe Dragonborn can grow wings, depending on what path they follow. Anyway, ultimately you can homebrew a reason to have wings and just make sure your DM's happy with it, but it is weird that Aasimar don't just have wings anyway. But I kind of get it, because they're supposed to be mortal, and if you have two mortal parents who don't have wings, it could be a bit weird to have like a little child growing up who's flying around and whatever. I'm getting too deep into it, but I didn't draw her with wings. I could have given her kind of like see-through-ish illusionary wings, but it is what it is. Now, a ranger is, well, kind of as the name would suggest, they specialize in the wilderness, and particularly like hunting, tracking, navigating through difficult kind of terrains where you would easily get turned around. Depending on what kind of terrain you've grown up in or trained in, you're a natural explorer, so you're particularly familiar with one type of natural environment and are adept at traveling and surviving in such regions. So examples of your favorite terrain might be Arctic or coast, or swamp or underdark, but in this case it's forest. So a little bit standard, but sometimes it's nice to go classic. So when you're in your chosen terrain, you can benefit the group that you're with by if you're traveling for more than an hour in your favorite terrain, you gain the following benefits. Difficult terrain doesn't slow your group's travel. Your group can't become lost except by magical means. Even when you are engaged in another activity while traveling, such as foraging or navigating or tracking, whatever, you remain alert to danger. If you're traveling alone, you can move stealthily at a normal pace, and when you forage, you find twice as much food as you normally would, if you were in a different terrain. While tracking other creatures, you also learn their exact number, their sizes, and how long ago they passed through the area. And so you can have additional favored terrain types at your 6th and 10th levels. And that's just one of the class features of being a ranger. You also get other things such as favored enemy and a specific fighting style. In this case, I've chosen archery. You get a little bit of spell casting. And then you also, you choose a ranger archetype. In this case, I've chosen Swarm Keeper, which is my favorite because it means you can attack with a swarm of somethings. Technically, they're nature spirits, but you have them appear as whatever you want them to be. And they could be birds or pixies or whatever. But one of the suggestions is insects. And there is a certain satisfaction in attacking your enemy with just like a swarm of biting cockroaches. So that's the reason it's one of my favorite, because you get to be really gross about attacking people with this swarm. Anyway, there is a whole bunch of stuff that comes with being a ranger. I recommend you give it a read online. And let's talk about her particular skills. I'd say Lemon has been raised very well in a very loving environment that's very nurturing and supportive. She's either average or above average in all of her abilities. So her lowest is just average at +0. And that makes sense to me. If she's grown up in a forest among wood elves, that they wouldn't necessarily have a library for her to be studying at. She wouldn't do a lot of learning from books or memorizing maps or anything like that. She would more learn the feel of the forest. And I guess you could argue that like learning the ways of the forest is intelligence based, because you have to remember it like in your memory, and like which things are poisonous and which things are food, and what kind of branch you can walk on that won't break underneath you and things like that. But those could also fall under wisdom and dexterity, so her ability to apply her intelligence is quite high with a +2, and then also her dexterity is a +1, so she's very dexterous and nimble. She's quite strong, so she can, you know, move rocks around if she needs to. She can climb very well. I'd say with her +1 and +2 in strength and dex that she's very good at climbing trees and just jumping over the vines and things like that in the jungle or the forest. I'm going to say forest, but there, you know, there's a little bit of overlap with vines and trees and branches and all that stuff. You get it. Her highest stat is charisma, and I think she's a very cheerful kind of person, so she wouldn't necessarily use her Aasimar skills to intimidate people. So she doesn't do the like glowing eyes and great big spectral wings to scare people off. She's more likely to try and charm someone into cooperating with her. But also, as you can see, just in terms of like, this isn't stat-based, this is just visual, that she's very good with her bow and arrows. So if she needs to attack things, if she needs to hunt, that's what she does. She has her own little customized arrows that match her distinctive hair. So I think in her tribe, I'll say tribe, she's the only one who has this brightly colored hair. So she's taken that really to be part of her. She wouldn't call it this, but this is part of her brand. So where everyone else is making arrows that just look like every other arrow, she's found a way to, maybe she's found some flowers that perfectly match the pink of her hair, and she's using them to create dyes and paints and decorate her leather arrow case strap thing. I don't know what they're called. Quiver. That's the one. And then also the point of her arrow, the feathers on her arrow, they all match her. So if you get hit with one of her arrows, you're going to know about it. And also she'll be able to tell if she is the one who hit the target, if there's any kind of hunting party going around and anyone contests whose arrow hit the prize. I think in terms of her call to adventure, like why she decides to leave her forest and go on an adventure with an adventuring party, it would probably need to be something where her forest is under threat, or just specifically her tribe is under threat. Something where monster after monster or an army or something is invading her forest and her family's space, and there is a big threat and she needs to go out and deal with it. Basically, she needs to take out not the individual monsters that are coming into her forest, but the person who is sending them, the big bad. And to face the big bad, she needs to find other people who want to fight this king or beast monster or whatever it is. You get it. You don't need a really deep reason to have people join an adventuring party, but I think in this case she does have that sort of hero's mentality where she could almost be a paladin, but she's not. She's a ranger. And possibly there might be a lot of needing to travel through her forest where she is an asset in that area. And especially if no one else in the party is particularly skilled in nature survival, this is where she really shines. So she might be interested in learning a little bit about how things work in the city, especially if you have like strange technology and stuff there that she wouldn't be familiar with. But other than that, this is her. This is Lemon, the Aasimar Ranger. What do we all think of her? Let me know in the comments below, and thank you for watching. I hope you have a great rest of your week, and I will catch you next time. Bye!